There's a lot of questions here, and now we get into the questions of science fiction. I'm sure the three things I've named are happening because that work is happening now. But at some point, these systems will get powerful enough that you'll be able to take the agents and they'll start to work together.
In 2024, the AI industry reported tens of billions of dollars in revenue. It was called the fastest-growing sector in modern history, a technological explosion, a once-in-a-generation breakthrough. Investors poured money into it, politicians warned about it, companies restructured their futures to embrace it. It looked like a tidal wave of demand rising across the world. But behind the headlines, beneath the glossy charts and triumphant announcements, lay something few people understood, something the companies didn't highlight, something the investors never questioned, something that didn't fit the narrative of unstoppable growth, because a surprising percentage of that revenue didn't come from customers. It didn't come from real adoption. It didn't come from businesses across the world integrating AI into their workflows or consumers depending on it in their daily lives. It came from AI companies paying each other, money moving in circles, money bouncing between the same 3 or 4 players, money that left one hand, entered another, and then returned to the first. The AI boom wasn't being powered by a global wave of demand. It was being powered by circular spending, internal transactions, and financial loops that created the illusion of growth. This is the hidden architecture of the AI economy, an economy where investors fund startups. Startups spend the money on compute, and cloud giants book that spending as revenue that attracts more investment. A loop that spins faster with every cycle, making the numbers look bigger, brighter, and more promising than reality. To understand how this loop formed and why it's so dangerous, you have to start at the beginning. The moment the world of technology split in two. It started with one model, one product, one moment in time. OpenAI releasing ChatGPT. Overnight, a consumer AI revolution ignited. It wasn't just a novelty or a toy or a research artifact. It was a glimpse into a future that felt inevitable, a tool that shocked people with its fluency, a model that made businesses rethink their strategies, a product that made governments rewrite policy memos. It felt as if history was accelerating in real time, and in that moment of ignition, one decision from one company rewired the entire economic structure of AI. Microsoft invested billions into OpenAI, not just as a partner and not just as a collaborator, but as the exclusive cloud provider for every major training run. Every model upgrade, every inference pass, every fine-tuning job, every step of OpenAI's future would run through Azure. It was a symbiotic relationship, but it also created a financial loop. When OpenAI trained a model, the bill went to Microsoft. Microsoft booked that bill as cloud revenue. That revenue signaled AI adoption. That adoption attracted investors. And those investors poured more money into AI companies who in turn spent more money on compute with Microsoft, who booked more. Revenue and the loop accelerated. It wasn't fraudulent. It wasn't artificial in the malicious sense, but it was circular. The money flowed from investment to compute to revenue to valuation to investment again, and Microsoft wasn't the only one. Google invested in Anthropic, a direct competitor to OpenAI, and structured the agreement so that Anthropic's models would be trained on Google Cloud. The investment went in, the compute spending came out. The revenue numbers went up, the cycle repeated. Amazon followed suit. It invested billions into Anthropic, then earmarked that investment to be spent on AWS compute. The spending was counted as revenue. The revenue looked like demand. The demand justified more investment. This was the beginning of the loop. Where the money came from didn't matter. Where the money went didn't matter. As long as it remained inside the system, the charts always pointed upward. Then venture capital joined in, not as spectators, but as engineers of the loop. VCs realized something. If their portfolio companies bought AI tools from each other, it created revenue on both sides of the ledger. It made startups look more successful than they really were. It made valuations more defensible. It created momentum, even if that momentum had no connection to actual market need. A company raises money from a VC fund. The VC fund introduces them to 4 or 5 other portfolio startups. They buy each other's tools. They call it traction. They call it adoption. They call it revenue. It isn't malicious. It's just a system where the incentives point inward, so the money moves inward. And then cloud credits, the most misunderstood financial weapon in the AI economy, added fuel to the loop. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google began offering free or massively discounted compute credits to AI companies. Tens of millions of dollars in compute capacity, sometimes more. It looked like generosity. It looked like support. But credits weren't cash. They were a financial gravity well. The credits brought startups into the ecosystem. The credits linked their future to one specific cloud. The credits let them scale models faster than their revenue justified. And the credits acted like a trap, because when they ran out, the bill became real. Suddenly, a company that had been training models freely was now burning millions per month to continue. The only way to survive was to raise more money, and the only way to raise more money was to show rapid growth. And the easiest way to show rapid growth was to burn more compute, and the loop tightened. Investors fed compute bills fed cloud revenue fed market confidence, and market confidence fed the next wave of investment. NVIDIA sat at the center of all of this, selling the shovels in a gold rush, making more money off the shortage of GPUs than any company in the AI stack. But here too, the demand wasn't always tied to customers. Companies bought GPUs not because they needed the power, but because they feared not having it. Fear of missing out became a business model, and hoarding compute became a strategy. AI labs that had no customers, no business model, and no clear path to revenue raised hundreds of millions of dollars simply to buy more GPUs. Investors didn't ask how the AI would be used. They asked how big the model would be. They asked how many chips a lab had secured. They asked about training runs, not customers. And that's how the circular economy grew into a self-reinforcing machine. But beneath the surface of this booming loop, cracks began to appear. Inside Fortune 500 companies, early experiments with AI rarely delivered the kinds of results that had been promised. Productivity gains were inconsistent. Error rates were high. Human oversight remained necessary. Legal departments hesitated. Data security concerns multiplied. Integration costs ballooned. Pilot programs quietly ended. Renewals slowed. Companies that were supposed to become major customers of AI turned cautious, then skeptical, then silent. The gap between hype and adoption widened. Many AI companies counted active users, but not paying ones. Many counted enterprise interest, but not enterprise contracts. Many counted training runs, but not long-term viability. The revenue numbers looked impressive, but the source of that revenue always pointed back to the loop. And the single greatest unspoken risk, inference cost, sat like a loaded weight beneath the entire structure. Every time a model responded to a user, it consumed compute, and compute costs money. Sometimes more money than the platform earned from the user. A model might cost fractions of a cent per query, but at scale, fractions become millions, and millions become tens of millions. Inference costs don't scale down, they scale up. And yet companies scaled anyway because investors rewarded growth, not sustainability. This is where the danger becomes unavoidable. The AI industry built a business model where money circulates internally but rarely exits the loop. An industry where compute is purchased before customers exist, where revenue is created without market demand, where growth is measured in GPU clusters, not usage, where training runs are celebrated even when they have no commercial purpose. Circular money is not a scam, but it is not sustainable. Every circular system eventually reaches a point where it needs real external input, real customers, real demand, real revenue that doesn't originate inside the loop. And when that moment arrives, the industry will be forced to confront a question it has never been prepared to answer. What is the real market for large-scale AI? Who are the customers actually willing to pay the true cost? And how many AI companies can survive when compute spending must be justified instead of subsidized? If the world embraces AI fully, the industry will survive the unwinding of the loop. The strongest companies will endure. The ones with real products will find their customers. The ones solving actual problems will grow beyond the loop, but the weaker ones, the ones built on internal transactions, cloud credits, and inflated metrics, will not. They will collapse the moment the loop slows. Because loops always slow. When investor enthusiasm fades, when credits expire, when cloud contracts come due, when real adoption doesn't match projections, when the economics become undeniable, the AI industry will have to stand on its own. And standing on your own is harder when your entire rise was built on a system that never touched the ground. The AI boom may become the greatest technological revolution of this century. It may reshape industries, redefine work, and transform the global economy. But it may also become a cautionary tale about circular money, the illusion of demand, the danger of internal incentives, and the fragility of ecosystems that never connect to the real world. Because money can spin in circles, charts can rise without customers, valuations can grow without value, and an industry can look unstoppable from the outside while standing on air from within. The loop made the numbers look powerful, but the numbers weren't the truth. The loop was. And when that loop slows, the industry built on circular money will face the only force it cannot negotiate with, subsidize, or spin: reality.